ओके, जय सच्चिदानंद महात्माओं, पुलितान जी, मंत्र बुलाओ। मित, कैन यू प्लीज फॉलो?
English.
नमो वितरागाय,
नमो वितरागाय,
नमो अरिहंताणम,
नमो अरिहंताणम,
नमो सिद्धाणम,
नमो सिद्धाणम,
नमो आर्यरियाणम,
नमो आर्यायाणम,
नमो वज्जायाणम,
नमो उभयजायाणम,
नमो लोहे सव साहुणम,
नमो लोये सव्व साहुणम,
ऐसो पंचन मुक्कारो,
एसो पंचन मुक्तारो,
पावपणासनो,
सव्व पावपनाशनो,
मंगलाणं च सवेसिं,
मंगलाणं च सौम्येसिं,
परमां
परमं वै
Mangalam.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय,
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
ओम नमः शिवाय,
Om Namah Shivaya.
जय सच्चिदानंद।
जय
Jai Satchidanand.
Jai Sachchidanand Mahatmao. So, Mit is the first question. Mit?
Yeah. Jai Satchidanand Pulinanandji.
हाँ,
So my first question was that, can you define a dosh? Like, what is the definition of a dosh?
दोष
Yeah, dosh.
दोष means any mistake that you have done, any error that we have done in the scheme of things, in the sense when if you have hurt anybody, if you have hurt anybody by mind, speech, body, or we have done anything wrong, any what we can say illicit wealth, illicit affection, other relations. So where we break nature's law, so all that could be can be considered as dosh, errors, mistakes. I would not call it sin, because sin, paap would really be called as sin, but erroneous behavior, erroneous as defined by nature. I've lost my touch with English. Otherwise, I would have given the right word pinpointed, but something that close to that.
So would it be anything that you do when you're not in the state of your pure soul? Would that be considered a dosh?
Not really. It's not a dosh. Only thing, if you are not in the pure soul state, if you're not in the alertness or jagrati state, so you will lose the benefit of observer status. That being in Shuddhatma or pure soul state, you are an observer. So observer and seer, Nata Drashta as well. So we lose the benefit of that, and then that much of pending karmas remain pending. But it's not really a dosh as such. So, dosh in the sense that you have to clear that much, you lose the benefit of that noble seer state.
But if someone who hasn't taken Gnan, for them it would be a dosh, right? Like everything that they do.
For them, dosh is where you break nature's law.
Okay.
So if you hurt anybody by mind, speech, and body, any living creature, take what is not rightfully yours, stealing and things like that,
Yeah.
So all that would come under dosh.
Okay. Because like when we do like karma, right? We do good and bad karma, right? So do we have to do pratikaman for both of them or just the bad one? I think that like we should do it for both of them, right?
Why do you feel you should do for the good one?
Because like both of them keep you like in this world, right? They both like keep you binded to the world, right?
Yes, that is true for those who have not taken Gnan, those who have not realized their own self. For them, yes. But for I'm sorry. Those who have not taken Gnan, for them, binding is always there, good or bad.
Yeah.
So they will not be able to do any pratikraman for the good ones, you see. because good ones will lead them, will generate punya, and that punya will propel them forward. Forward, maybe materialistically, and if he gets a good guide, spiritually also. So good karmas are helpful if you get the right guidance. And those who have taken Gnan, then if you really ask me very truly and very strictly, then you may even do Pratikaman for not practicing the 5 agnas or not remaining alert. Those who want to be really very vigilant.
Yeah.
For those who want to remain very alert. But first order, what Dada says is, even if you apply, if you do Pratikaman for the errors, dosh means error, loosely. So for all the erroneous behavior or speech or thought, that will help you in a sense, it will avoid you experiencing the fruits of the errors. If I hurt anybody, I will again get hurt in return. So that return hurt will be avoided. So he may not go into a cumulative cycle. If I'm hurt, I'll hurt somebody else more, and then someone else will hurt me more, and that cumulative cycle goes till he realizes that yet he is going wrong, and then he comes out of it. Because it starts with not hurting anybody, and then it progresses towards the good things, and then finally leads to permanent goodness or permanent happiness. So that would be the progression path.
So I have one example I wanted to ask. Like, let's say I do good for somebody, right? And then let's say they get attached to me, right? So wouldn't I become instrumental for them creating a new bond?
That depends how you take it. Good to we all have to do. Whether Bhagwan did good for the welfare of the world all throughout his life.
Yeah.
So even before he got enlightened, and after also he got enlightened. But there, one must be aware, one must remain vigilant that he is not the independent doer, he is an instrumental doer. That the opposite person were to benefit because of his punya, that you have become instrumental in helping him. And if you do not take the garvaras, the pride, I've helped you. If you do not take that pride in that doership or doing of that activity, then you don't have any bondage. You are not attached. If you are ever vigilant, many Mahatmas say, because of you this happened and that happened. But we know we are only an instrumental doer. It was his punya that he came in touch with us, and we happen to share the Dada's knowledge with him. So if you know the true scheme of things, what's really happening, it's just coming together of two, three circumstances, and he meeting you at the right time when he wants help, and then you helping him because you want to help people.
Yeah.
So it's just an event. So the doership does not. Where is doership? You have an inner desire that you want to help people. That the Bhagwan had that. Whosoever meets me should benefit from me. Right from childhood, he had this inner belief, inner desire rather, that anybody who meets me must benefit from me in some way. So nature brings 2 + 2. Those who want to get guidance and those who want to give guidance. Nature, brings both together. On the negative side, the example is that if one has a lot of antagonism towards cockroaches and all, cockroaches, mosquitoes, they must be killed. So if someone has that bhav or desire to kill, so what nature does is, when that cockroach is supposed to die, it brings in front of such person and who kills him. So the deeds of both are fulfilled. So this is the nature, how things work out. Essentially, it's our inner desire or bhav of what to do, to help people, to hurt people, whatever. And if you are vigilant and do not take pride in the doership, I have done this, I have helped him, then you are safe, then you are not bound. If you take that, then you are bound. Bound in the sense, what will happen is that person doesn't reciprocate in future, or the person to whom you have helped If that person doesn't respond to you, or he does something against you, then you'll feel very bad. Oh, I helped him and he done like this to me. That attachment is one that will bond you. But there's no attachment. I was instrumental, fine. If he does good, well and good. If he doesn't reciprocate, well and good.
Yeah.
Then you'll remain free. So you must have the right perspective of viewing things, how they work. That is very essential. That is what Dada has given. He has given the right vision of how to, what's the reality, how things move in this world. And that is what helps all of us. His vision helps all of us.
Yeah, thank you. Jai Satchidanand.
Okay, but one question, Pulitanji, what you were saying, doing karma, but doing karma, are you talking about discharge karma or charge karma?
I'm talking about people who have not taken Jnana, right? Like for them.
Okay.
Those who have not taken Jnana, for them, everything is going to be charged.
Yeah.
All the desires are going to go in the charge category, not the actions. Actions are discharged. But after doing the action, if he takes the pride, oh, I did this, and that is the charge. Kriya, the activity, the physical activity by mind, body, speech, that is discharge. But then the inner bhav that is generated while the activity is being done, that is the charge portion, the inner side.
Mm-hmm.
So Dada Bhagwan laid great emphasis on nullifying the causes and not the effects. I may be having vices, drink, smoke and all that stuff. I may be having erroneous behaviors. But Dada said that is discharge. You change within yourself the opinion that you don't want to do this. You don't want to commit these mistakes. So if you change that opinion, you are reversing you're putting new causes. So the effects will definitely be taken. So he laid great emphasis on the inner or the cause part of it.
Mm-hmm.
No kalmo in all is what? That is just for a person who has not taken none, it is new causes. No?
Yeah.
And other things, just that you mentioned it. One other good thing that the Bhagwan mentioned, that today's Gnan, whatever knowledge we have today, Bhagavad book, for example. Now that for anybody, for a non-Mahatma or a Mahatma, today's Gnan will nullify the effects of the discharge that we have brought. I may have brought that I will hurt, I will not tolerate injustice, for example. And someone does injustice, so I will boil it. But if I have heard in satsang, no, everything is justice and he is only an instrument, and why should we be angry on him? So that is the inner understanding that I have got today. But the more and more I am convinced about it, the more and more I reinforce today's understanding, it will have a nullifying effect on the discharge. In the sense, when I am fighting against injustice, from inside I will say, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong. Today's Gnan has a good effect. You may not be able to change the effects, but it will minimize the, alertness. It will create a lot of alertness. So it's always useful for anybody, Mahatma or non-Mahatma, to know the sayings of enlightened beings, all spiritual masters who have gained self-realization, maybe a Gnani, maybe Tirthankar, maybe anybody. It's always beneficial to take advantage of their vision, because they are talking from an enlightened state. So it just helps everybody. We need to understand that.
Okay. Yeah. Jai Satchidanand.
Jai Satchidanand, okay.
Yes.
Right. Mahatmas, any other questions? Suresh Bhai. Suresh Bhai. Oh.
Pulitanji, Jai Satchidanand.
Aji, Jai Satchidanand.
Just one question comes in my mind. According to moksha, it is a Jain mythology that soul is going here or there or somewhere. So in Shwetambar Jain and Digambar Jain, they are doing tapasya in jungle, doing fasting, all these things. So why they are choosing this way to go for the moksha?
Well, because
And,
that is what has. Boli. Carry on.
and in Dada is defined a very simple way for moksha. Understand ourselves and see the relative part. Time to timely and go to the moksha. Simply. So why they are not all choosing this Shwetambar and Digambar Jain people?
You see,
They are doing
Shwetambar,
fasting and all these things. All, I don't know why they are doing all this.
well, that is the Kramik path.
Kramik
The,
mark.
that is Kramik, and we are Akram. We, because by the divine grace of an enlightened being, we happen to realize our true self. In the Kramik path or the step-by-step path, one has to proceed by clarifying, by cleansing one's own ego, by cleansing the Krodh, Man, Maya, Lobh, That is the step-by-step path. In the sense, little bit of it will be cleared in this birth, the remaining in the next birth.
In the morning, they are wearing the dhoti and all these things and go to
They go to the temple for
Derasan and
temple.
all these things.
Yeah, but because that is the ritual, that is the path. No? Those are the practices that have been laid down in the scriptures for a common man to progress on the path of moksha. Kriya marg. That is the Kriya marg, by doership marg. By doing the activities, they will generate the bhav and align themselves with the sayings of the Tirthankars. Tirthankar said 5 Mahavrats, ahimsa, non-violence, non-stealing, celibacy, and all that stuff. So now, how do you generate that bhav? So you worship the idol, and then you generate the good feelings. Now that was the purpose of the rituals, to generate inner good feelings. Whether he is generating now or not is a different aspect. Because minds, body, speech are not aligned. Man, vachan, kaya ki ekta nahi hai. They are not aligned together. So the inner bhav may be generated, may not generate, but external activities are done for that purpose, to remain in tune with the Tirthankars. And by physically in tune, you will be remaining in tune with their inner saying, their sayings, whatever they want to preach, whatever they have preached. And that will generate your bhav or desire to be like them, to attain salvation or moksha. Generation of that bhav is the main purpose of doing all the rituals. Then there, everybody has followed their, according to whatever their masters have taught them. जो गुरु भगवंतों ने बताया, उनके हिसाब से फिर वो चलते हैं. We go by whatever the immediate gurus or spiritual masters have told. The idea is purification of the ego by doing kartapana se. What have they purify? They have to reduce gradually Krodh, Man, Maya, Lobh, anger, pride, deceit, and greed. So in the Kramik, I told, because we have got Dada Bhagwan. Otherwise, if we had not got Dada Bhagwan, we would also be following the same thing. Jains would follow the Jain masters, Vaishnavas would follow their spiritual masters, and Shiv people would follow their spiritual masters. Because
They are doing tapasya for years in the jungle.
That tapasya is, you see, what has happened is Gnan, Darshan, Charitra and Tap. Gnan means knowledge, Darshan means understanding, Gnan, Charitra means conduct loosely. And tapasya means penance. Now, these are the 4 pillars to attain salvation. Now, what has happened? I'm coming. That penance part, tapasya part. Now, what happens is, they believe that by doing tapa, we will square off our karmas. Karma ki nirjara ho jayegi. But that, the Tirthankars have said, that will happen if you do inner penance, antartap. Whereas it has got translated into bahya tap or external tap. It means fasting, eating once, non-eating some things and all that stuff, upvas. So those have got slightly, if I may say so, misunderstood or misinterpreted. By doing inner penance, that means when someone insults me and I remain calm with the help of the knowledge that he is a doer, he is not the independent doer, it's my karma who is forcing him to do, and I do inner penance at that time, that will square off my karma. In the sense, I had done something wrong in the past, so this man becomes instrumental, he hurts me, and I accept that hurt by true understanding. So my karma gets squared up. Which karma? That I had hurt somebody in the past. That gets exhausted. So by inner penance, karmas get exhausted. But now people have focused more on the outer penance. And outer penance, really speaking, is a result of karmas. Karma phal, it's a 50. Everybody cannot do penance. So, but what happens is by that he generates pure karma and punya, that is, and then maybe where he spends that punya, he may progress further.
And it
He
gives
says,
you
I
the
want to
pain
use this.
for your body. Painful. It
What-
is also one kind of ahimsa side.
No, no,
Hinsa.
that pain, the purpose of that is by practicing giving up food, by practicing giving up comfort, you are trying to reduce the attachment to external materialistic things. That's one of the process. By doing that, you are trying to come into the soul state. आत्मा भाव में आने की कोशिश करते हैं. It's one of the methodologies. See, the discharge man vachan kaya, what they try to do is they try to control it externally, or not control but limit it externally. That
Due to fasting, you can control to man vachan kaya.
The jagrati, that jagrati awareness increases, and then that jagrati, if it is focused on the sayings of the spiritual masters.
If you are doing fasting yourself, so it is a one kind of hinsa for your body.
Yeah, but you see, it is not taken like that. What they are saying is, first thing, by doing fasting, you are controlling your urge to
4
eat.
days, 20 days, 50 days, living in how many,
I'm telling
so
I'm
many years in jungle.
No, I'm saying, I'm coming to that. You see, see, behind those activities or rituals, there is an underlying principle of purification. Okay, by if you fast, you will not eat, you will control your swadhendriya, the sense of this thing, eating. Because otherwise unlimited you will eat. So the first thing is they try to control that, number one. Number two, you increase the awareness. So that awareness you will spend in self-introspection, number one, or in understanding the sayings of the Tirthankars. The idea is to enhance that. Enhanced Jagrati has to be used for your personal self-awareness or soul progression. That was the principle behind those rituals. So that was one of the ways, basically by all these things, they try to limit the mind, body and speech in a boundary. And by doing this awareness, you are trying to reduce the moh maya of the world, the attachment to sensationary pleasures that they are trying to reduce by doing this type of penance. That was the idea behind doing that.
Idea, one kind of idea.
That was the core concept. The core concept behind those activities was that. Now, whether they are following that concept or not, whether they are achieving that goal or not is a secondary issue. Or are they blindly just following the rituals because others are doing, or Maharaj Sahib has told me to do, so I'm doing tapasya. That's a different matter. But the initial concept was like that, and that did work. In the fourth era,
my opinion is that way, that it is a one kind of hinsa with your body.
No, that is your opinion, no? But that is not considered that way. This hinsa is better, so that you will avoid the external hinsa. You are increasing awareness, you are this thing, so that you will not hurt others. That was the core principle. Now you see that worked in the fourth era, Chotha era. Why? Because at that time, mind, body, and speech were in unison. Whatever comes in mind, he'll do in his speech, and speech will do it in action. So when he's doing tapasya in the body, his mind is also in tapasya. But today they are not one, so you do not get the true benefits behind that ritual.
जय सच्चिदानंद
अभी
स्वामी।
जय
अभी देखो ऐसा है,
सच्चिदानंद।
नहीं ऐसा है, खरे जी उसमें जाने दो, अभी दूसरों को क्यों इतना पोस्टमार्टम करने का, अभी अपनी बात करो ना।
उमेश भाई,
जय सच्चिदानंद स्वामी जी।
हाँ जय सच्चिदानंद।
जय सच्चिदानंद स्वामी जी। स्वामी जी, एक देयर इज अ लाइन इन ज्ञान विधि कि आत्मा स्व और पर प्रकाशक है, एंड उमेश इज ओनली पर प्रकाशक. Okay, so is it because of this point? I am trying to use the words as best as I can. I hope my meaning will get across. Is it because of this that the Atma is able to watch what Umesh is doing as Gyata Drishta, but it is impossible for Umesh to be Gyata Drishta himself. Am I right?
No, you see, Swapar Prakashak, the word that is used, Swapar Prakashak, it is used to define the property or one of the properties of the pure soul.
Yes, very right.
What it says is that it has the capacity to observe and see the external other things as well as its own self.
Yes.
स्व को भी प्रकाश कर सकता है, यानी it can understand who am I, it can illuminate
Yes.
one's own self or understand one's own self.
Okay.
Not taken literally, but the meaning behind
Yeah.
it. And it can also see the outside the soul. That means Umesh, or file number 1 or this thing. That is the
Yeah.
key property. Umesh or Umesh's eyes can only see the external. It cannot see the Atma.
Atma, yes.
The property to know others, दूसरों की जानने की जो गुण है ना, वो केवल चेतन आत्मा में ही है. It is there only in that pure soul.
Very right. Very right.
So either in an enlightened state, I can really, so that pure soul can recognize who itself is. There is others also, the remaining 5 elements, the 5 eternal elements. And otherwise, when Umesh is watching, it is watching through the eyes, that is the Indriya, or through the intellect.
Yeah. So it is basically because of this only that whenever Umesh is watching through the 5 senses or through mind, it is externally directed most of the time. And it is not internally directed till the Gyan Vidhi doesn't happen.
Even after Gyan Vidhi, that will never be internally directed.
Exactly. Now it's very clear to me. That can never be internally directed. It is impossible.
Can never be. It does not have that property. It is indirect light.
It doesn't have it. Yeah.
You see, Umesh has seen a tree. Umesh has seen a thief. Umesh feels very bad about that. The pure soul is seeing what Umesh is seeing.
Exactly. Drishta ka drishta hai.
It is Umesh becomes the Gne.
Yeah.
It becomes the object, and that is the observer. Initially, before the Gyan Vidhi, Umesh was the observer and it observed the tree or external things.
Yeah. Yes, very
After the Gyan Vidhi, Umesh becomes the observed object and observer becomes the pure soul.
Very right. So that means man, chit, buddhi, hankar, in all these 4, this property of internally seeing itself is not there at all.
No, how can it? Internally, in the sense, what will you see? Buddhi can see. Buddhi can see in a limited manner. It can see all some thoughts coming and going. It cannot see.
All.
It is a limited this thing.
Limited. Very right. Very clear. Very clear, Swamiji. Swamiji, there is one more question. If there is time, I'll ask.
Oh, go ahead, Umesh bhai.
Okay, thank you. Swamiji, when we talk about awareness or Jagrat, when we say awareness, it means Jagrati only, na? Am I correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. When we talk of awareness, there is awareness at the level of intellect or buddhi also, because when a robber is indulging in any robbery, his awareness, because of the survival instinct, is at its peak. But the awareness which you get from pragya, that awareness qualitatively and content wise is totally of a different texture. Am I correct in understanding that?
That is true awareness. That is the soul awareness.
That is true awareness.
But
But-
that is the spirit.
Sorry. Yes, you were
I'm
saying
sorry.
something. Yes.
That is the true awareness, actually.
So-
That is the true awareness.
No.
So there
But
are
the
two types of
awareness
Jagrati.
of a yes.
That means there are two types of Jagrati, two types of awareness. One is Devar Jagrati, which is the intellect Jagrati. And one is the Nishchay Jagrati, which is the Prajna Jagrati.
Okay. But now comes the question that the intellect Jagrati also, or the Vyavhar Jagrati also, is there basically because of the property of Jagrati in the Shuddhatma only, no? That is a sort of a reflection of that. Let's say
Yes,
leftover of that,
Buddhi-
or a reflection. Am I right?
It is the indirect light. Dada Bhagwan had very clearly defined Buddhi is indirect light of the pure soul.
Indirect life.
Pure soul light coming, indirect light in the sense it comes through the medium of the ego. I am the
comes-
name
yes,
bearer is
yes.
the ego, and whatever light, spiritual or the pure soul light,
Yes.
which passes through that this thing, I am the name bearer, that is Buddhi or intellect.
Oh, beautiful. Yes.
I tell you,
Yes.
the property to see or know, the property to guide any living being is that knowing, guiding this thing is only and only coming from the pure soul. Because of the six eternal elements, pure soul is the only element which has the property to observe, see, and know other elements. The Pudgal Tattva or the Parmanu or atom Tattva element cannot see others, nor the remaining four. Dharmastikaya, space, time, those none of the elements have the property of observation or knowing. It is only the pure soul which has it. Now, in the human being or in all other living beings, that is covered. So, but it comes out in the form of the intellect and the indriya. So, we are observing through those lights. But main source is there. Because it's coming through the intellect and all that, so it is indirect light.
Okay. Very clear. So basically the senses are also working because of this indirect light of the soul or the Vyavhar Jagrati. Am I right?
Don't put it like that. You see, it should be put it a little differently. What Dada says is the pure soul is covered, it is covered with all that Parmanu or the Pudgal Tattva. And then as he progresses from one indriya, one sense organ open up, the sense of touch. He goes into two senses, the sense of,
Yeah, very right.
And the smell and the eyes and this thing. So as the number of senses open up, that much of the Atma or the pure soul is uncovered. So he has the capacity to do more things.
Oh.
So it is the uncovering of this thing by which he starts seeing more things or more dimensions of the things. Parmanu to ek hi hai, but he started seeing the other dimensions also. Roop, Ras, Sparsh, Gandh. All the four dimensions are open up finally.
Very right. And there is just this last point. I can only ask this point as an example. See, when we see an animal, a dog or anybody, let's say a dog, we put anything in front of that dog, he will eat only if he is hungry. So he also has awareness, but that awareness is purely instinctual awareness. Am I correct? But when it comes to a human being, he has instinctual awareness also, plus He has likes and dislikes. Means even if he is not hungry, he will still eat. If he likes something.
Yeah,
So,
you see,
if you can make me understand this,
Sangnya, Dada used the word Sangnya. Darek Jivne, every living or being has 4 Sangnyas.
Sangya.
Ahar, this Sangnya of Ahar means eating,
Ji.
Bhai means fear, Nidra
Ji.
means sleep, and Maitun
Ji.
means procreation. So
Ji.
these 4 things are there in all living beings, living creatures.
Okay. Ji. Okay.
So that animal operates from that Sangnya of eating. And he knows how
Eating,
much to eat, how much not to eat. And he has very limited mind, just restricted to yes, good, bad, that's all.
Ji.
And in the human form, the mind is unlimited. So, and likes, dislikes are aggravated, they are very predominant because the mind is very well established or well opened up. So then it has severe likes, dislikes, and he will eat even if he's not hungry because he likes it.
Okay. Got it. Very clear. Jai Sachidanand Swamiji, thank you so much. You made it crystal clear. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sachidanand.
Yes, sir.
Krishna,
Jai Sachidanand. My question is, I am a little confused about inner happiness and outer happiness. Can you please explain that?
Inner happiness and
Outer
happiness.
Huh.
Outer happiness means the happiness that we derive from the body. Body
Yeah.
meaning all the 5 senses, then happiness from the intellect, happiness from the ego, I'm something, pride. So everything that comes from the body part in terms of 5 senses and intellect and ego, that is external happiness.
Mm-hmm.
And all those are temporary happiness and on loan. Means you have to repay the backyard happiness.
Okay.
And the inner happiness is the happiness of the pure soul.
Okay.
Which only you can experience after getting enlightenment.
Okay. So, for example, if I have Krupa Nesta, so most of the time it happen like without telling them, do something they are doing. So it makes me happy inside. So it called inner happiness.
Who becomes happy?
Krishna.
So it is Krishna's happiness. And your happiness will come, your true happiness will come by observing that Krishna has become happy.
Okay, got it.
That is the happiness of the soul. Gnan Darshan Charitra ne Sukh. That happiness component of the pure soul comes by the observing.
Okay.
That Krishna has become happy because children have done without telling them.
Yeah.
If you observe that, you'll be happy. And not only that, in case the children don't do as you have told them, and you get upset, and you observe that Krishna has become upset. If you observe Krishna, that will also give you happiness because you're in the observer state.
Okay.
Jnata drashta raho. If you're an observer and knower, it generates happiness. Jnata drashta phad anand hai. The result of being observer and knower is happiness.
Okay.
That is why when you see Shuddhatma in others for 10-15 minutes or maybe 45 minutes, you feel happy.
Yeah.
Because you are using that property of the pure soul.
Okay.
It is a property of the pure soul.
Okay. Thank you.
See, Krishna will get all happiness, unhappiness, everything part of karma that will happen. But you have to remain aware is the true happiness of the pure soul.
Okay. Yeah.
That is why Dada Bhagwan said, I am in Nirantar Samadhi. I have never experienced tension because he is always separate from the body and observer of the body.
Okay. Yeah.
okay, Krishna?
Yeah. Jai Sachidanand. Thank you.
Umeshpa, you had a question? Ramesh bhai, you had a question? Okay.
He's trying to unmute.
Ramesh bhai, you had a question?
Anji,
Yes.
Actually, I had lowered my hand. My answer had come, but there was something additional, that Swamiji, sometimes we are happy without any cause. Means we feel happy. There is no reason, but there is something which makes us feel happy for no reason at all.
Hmm.
So is that also a reflection of true happiness? So is it true happiness?
Now that only one individual can make out, find out whether it is happiness of the pure soul or it is happiness of because something else. You see,
It is causeless.
suppose,
Causeless.
supposing you help somebody,
Okay.
you oblige somebody, done some good work for someone,
Uh-huh.
and then you're just sitting in your home, then you will feel very happy. You're not done anything, you're not eaten or you're not watched TV or nothing else. No sensationary pleasure. But the fact that you helped someone and he has become very happy because of that. So you will experience reflected happiness. So that could also be one of the sources of happiness, that without doing anything, I'm feeling happy. Or that is number one. Number two, sometimes, you've got enough bank balance and all that. You've seen that, I'm safe, I'm very happy. Just your thought of that.
Got it.
So there could be many reasons of being happy just like that. It could be the spiritual part, it could be the worldly part.
Okay. Because in all the worldly parts, the examples that you have given me, they have causes. They are not causeless. Means I helped somebody 2-3 days back, and then today I suddenly felt happy remembering that. So there is a cause behind it.
Yes.
So
there's a cause behind it. These are causeless. The spiritual one is causeless.
It will be
and
causeless.
It will be causeless and it is instantaneous.
Instantaneous, yes. Spontaneous.
Spontaneous. In the sense,
Spontaneous.
You remain observer, na? So
yes,
you experience bliss very quickly, immediately, or in a very short time.
What did Swamiji? I didn't hear. I'm sorry.
If you remain Gnata Drashta, observer and seer, you will experience happiness immediately or very quickly, in brief time, short time.
And that is causeless happiness, of course.
That is causeless. That is the happiness of the true pure soul.
That is
the true happiness of the pure soul.
Thank you. Thank you, Swamiji. Jai Sachidanand. Very clear. Thank you so much.
Jai Sachidanand. Matmo, we still have 10-15 minutes. Matmo? Chinal?
Jai Sachidanand, Pulinankar. So my question was, if you could really explain what Purushat or what Jagrati should there be when we are when we experiment with Dada's prayog, that is Lagam Chhodi Do. So he said that, maybe one Sunday you can try that. So I was planning to try it tomorrow. So like, what all should I focus on when, external environment, there are things happening in the external environment and I'm being aware that I don't want to do, I don't want to have any expectations, or I want to minimal my desires and stuff like that. But then lots of things happen internally also. So, so what Purusha should really happen while we are doing Lagam, when we are releasing the Lagam? So
when we
are there any specific things to take care of?
Let go of the reins. Lagam chhodi do. Lagam chhodi do means let go of the reins. That was the prayog or experiment suggested by Dada Bhagwan to understand the working of Vyavasthit Shakti. That Vyavasthit Shakti is the doer. And I have to observe or understand that or experience that, how it works. to understand that more clearly, he had suggested this prayog or experiment of letting go of the reins of the five senses.
Correct.
And so that is the prime objective of this experiment. The way to do it is, so there is no other Purusharth. The idea is to see how circumstances are coming and events are taking place throughout the day. You have your desires, you want to eat, but without forcing yourself or without forcing others, without getting into clashes with anybody. That is the prime objective.
Okay.
That means when the process will be, you get up early in the morning and then say to the other Bhagwan, that other Bhagwan, I hereby surrender all the five senses to you, the reins of all the five senses to you, and let me remain in this prayog throughout the day. And having said that, then you go about your normal activities and just see how things are unfolding. Whether you're getting your tea, breakfast at the right time, lunch at the right time, and then you're supposing you want someone to rush up, come, you take bath, then I take bath. But he doesn't agree. So you tell once, twice. You can tell once, twice, but you should not get into a clash. You have to avoid clashes on that particular day, because clashes means you are forcing. I do this, and that means you're taking the lagam in your hand. You're taking the reins in your hand. You have to tell equanimously, vidrag bhav, that please do this, and then see what's happening. When your turn to go to bath comes, see what type of people are you meeting on that day. People are saying nice things to you, people are not saying nice things to you, things are working the way you planned to do some activities, things are falling in place, things are not falling in place, they are falling in time, they are not falling in time. Just observe how things are unfolding on that particular day without having rigidity and without getting into clash with anybody. Clash means holding your viewpoint, even if it mismatches with the other viewpoint. On that day, you are not going to hold rigidly to your viewpoint.
Correct.
You will tell once, twice, thrice, but then leave it.
Okay.
You want to go out, you're waiting for a rickshaw, then you just observe. You're trying for a rickshaw. You're getting it quickly, you're getting it late. That is all part of your stress. So observing that day what's happening, you're getting a rickshaw on time, is the process of the experiment, for the purpose of the experiment.
Okay.
So on that day, if you let go the rein, what will happen is, even if you don't get the rickshaw on time, you will not be disturbed, because you're only going to remain observing what's happening. What time you get the rickshaw, what time you reach the place you want to reach, what time your work takes place, does not take place, all that you just observe and observe.
Okay. So basically we are exercising the full Gyata Drashta bhav during that time.
Basically not Gnata Drashta, not very strictly. Gnata Drashta means observe. Basically, we are trying to understand how things unfold. We are trying to understand Vyavasthit Shakti, how circumstances and events take place and things do happen. You wanted to get up early, you get up late. You wanted to take rest, you could take rest, you could not take rest, you got food on time, did not get food on time, you did this, you did that, on time, not time, people have cooperated, people didn't cooperate. All things you have to observe. You have to observe the circumstances or events that are taking place around you.
Okay, so is this related to the statement of Dada Bhagwan that man vachan kayani saralta? Like whatever the mind is saying, the body is also doing that. Is it related or is it different?
It will not that way. It will come as sahajta. You will become sahaj, easy going. You will flow with the circumstances. Sahajta means to flow with the circumstances.
So does this prayog lead to man vachan kayani saralta? Does that lead to that?
It will remove your stubbornness.
Okay.
It may not affect your mind, body, speech directly, but in the sense you will remain observed and cool and calm. Mind may get agitated, you will observe it. Mind will not get agitated because only in the observer status.
Okay.
You become sahaj.
And also there's a danger of listening to your mind too much, as in like you said that you want to get up early but your mind is saying no, sleep. So then that time you're observing that this is happening, but then you will have to make your body awake, or because you have certain disciplines or certain so you let go of discipline, also you let go of your nishtay and everything on that day. Is that it? Because
No, it's not like that. You don't let go of anything. You try to follow whatever practices you have decided to follow. Whether you are able to follow or not, that is to be seen afterwards.
Okay.
That whatever do's and don'ts you have as a normal routine of getting up, doing vidhi and eating is doing the normal work. It means you say breakfast at time A, bath at time B, lunch at time C, whatever the normal routine that you have to maintain and see whether it is being maintained or not being maintained. Just observe. And observe why it is being maintained or why it is not being maintained. What are the circumstances that leading you for it not to be maintained? Observe the events that are taking place, the causes that are coming together, the circumstances that are coming together, which nimit is causing your delay. Just observe and see that this is the nimit and it is Vyavasthit Shakti who is doing all this. Vyavasthit Shakti of Jinal is bringing the circumstances together for Jinal, and Jinal is experiencing in the mind or in the leg peace or agitation.
Okay.
So it is basically observing Vyavasthit Shakti operating on file number 1. So automatically you become separate from file number 1.
Correct.
So the observer status of file number 1 is there, but
yeah,
by observing what's happening to Jinal, the events taking place according to Jinal's liking, not taking place according to Jinal, how Vyavasthit is operating, what are the nimits coming, good nimits, favorable nimits, unfavorable nimits, observing all that is the true essence of Lagam Chhodi Do, or letting go. That is the purpose behind this experiment, and it works wonderful. The entire buddhi gets fractured, the ego gets fractured. I thought I did this, but things are falling in place. I only had the misbelief that I did this and I did that. That realization comes.
Okay, thank you so much. I think I'll try it tomorrow and
you will and share your experience sometime, maybe next or whenever.
Yes, I'm excited. I'll do that. Yes, thank you so much.
Jinal, you can share your experience tomorrow, okay?
Yeah, I'll share. Thank you.
If there's no question, is there another question? Okay. Puliganti, if you want to wrap it up or say something, then we'll wrap it up.
I think Hema Ben wanted to say something. She's trying to unmute.
No. I brought her for 3 months.
What are you saying? I should say 3 months.
No. If you have to say something for couple of minutes.
Yeah. No, since I see Mahatmas in the panel here. The summary is that our end goal is to remain observer of file number 1 on a constant basis. We are observer, but in parts and pieces. And our Purusharth is to increase that awareness state. So we do various experiments or Purusharth suggested by the one of them is going on right now, that first 2 Agnas practice is going on throughout the day. Then as Jinal suggested, Lagam Chhodi. There are 1 or 2 other Purusharths also which can supplement and complement this. One is observing what part of the Prakriti is hindering my Jagrati. My man, my Protapano, my Mamta, and reversing that opinion on that, on this what we call, Unda Anta, reversing the opinion on that. That is one of the Purusharths to accelerate the whatever we have brought as by way of charge. Pratikraman, of course, is there. Samahik, of course, is there for those should that happen. or off time when there is no particular files, we can ask for strength from Dada, that, oh Dada, give me the strength to not do these mistakes if you're doing mistakes like Aham Na Dubai, or to do the Purusharth, to see Shuddhatma in others, to remain in Agnas, So both ways we can ask for strength. That also is one of the Purusharths which will tone down or reduce the intensity of the discharge karma which is hindering my Jagrati. Whatever discharge part in my mind, body, speech is hindering my awareness of remaining separate or an observer, that portion can be, the intensity of that can be reduced by these purushas. And once the intensity reduces, the Jagrati and awareness will increase and we will remain separate for a greater duration. And when there are no files, we will remain absolutely separate. And this is the step. Although Akaram is stepless, but these are the steps in Akaram of file number 1 was purification and enhancement of the Atma Jagrati. So, and if one doesn't understand anything, one simple Purusharth is just pray to Dada Bhagwan. Dada Bhagwan, I want to enhance my Jagrati. I want to experience the pure soul the way you are experiencing on a sustained and a continuous basis. You are remaining separate constantly. I want to remain separate from the body and soul separate. That state I want to remain in. Atmanu Spasht Vedana. So just pray for that. And then nature will give you the guidance so that you may achieve that goal of yours. What Purusha to do, how to do, when to do, that information, guidance, the circumstances to do that Purusharth, all that will, nature will give you the needful. So this is just one of a tip.
Very good. Yeah, Puliganji, very good. Excellent. So can you do Jai Mantra, Jinan, please follow?
Okay. Namo Vitragai.
Namo Vitragai.
Namo Aryantanam.
Namo Aryantanam.
Namo Siddhanam.
Namo Siddhanam.
Namo Ayariyanam.
Namo Ayariyanam.
Namo Vasayanam.
Namo Uvazayanam.
Namo Loye Savasaham.
Namo Loye Savasaunam.
Eso Panchanamukaro.
Eso Panchanamukaro.
Savapava Panasamo.
Savapava Parasan.
Manglanam Jasavesing.
Manglanam Chasavesing.
Padmam Havai Mangalam.
Padmam Havai Mangalam.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Om Namah Shivaya.
Jai Satchidananda.
Jai Satchidananda.